Yo, ladies and gentlemen, welcome to week 13, Friday the 13th, 1-3, Alex Rodriguez, week 13 of the NFL season right now. Daily Fantasy Sports. Let's take a first look at this, kind of talk about what happened last week as we analyze these players. Let's do it. Let's just get into the first look, right? All I got to ask you, you beautiful people, hopefully you had a lovely day, a great weekend. You're starting your Tuesday off with a pop. And if you're not, now you are. Let your shoulders lean. Relax. If you got 2 seconds, rate this podcast.com/Sal. You get entered into a chance to win $100. Or maybe we'll just give everybody $5. Let me know in the comments. You want me to just give whoever gives a review $5? Takes 2 seconds. Rate this podcast.com/Sal. You leave a review. Appreciate that a ton. So let's transition immediately now into the quarterback position. I'm going to be honest with you. I really want to find the tight end, running back, and receivers primarily through this video to build this first look lineup. The quarterbacks, I mean, if somebody stands out in an insane way from values, I'll go there. But now that we're in week 13, 11-game slate, only 2 games over a 50 implied total. The salaries these last couple of weeks for quarterbacks seem to be pretty damn efficient. Like, you don't usually find elite values that are popping off the page, in my opinion. You have the Tom Brady's priced up. You have the Herbert's priced up to the proper ranges. We'll see on this slate. You have Lamar on here at 7,800 in the divisional matchup. I mean, it's a fair price point. Lamar's 25 points per game are beautiful. Last time you saw him on Sunday Night Football in the divisional matchup, didn't look too well. Pittsburgh just got blown the hell out in another division. He's going to be lower owned in GPPs than he probably should be. For this purpose of this video, I kind of want to find some value. Kyler and Hopkins, I want to see what they're looking like this week. I want to see what Hopkins' price tag's at, because that could be very interesting if both can come back healthy after the bye. Now you get to Matthew Stafford, who's dealing with all these injuries. And the price point comes up because of the matchup at home against Jacksonville. I would expect a very nice team total approaching 28 to 30 fantasy or total points in that game. So Stafford is definitely still in play for me in GPPs. Like, people want to jump up and down in real life. Stafford, he's terrible. He's not getting you there. Yeah, that's fine. That's fine that they're losing 3 straight. Yeah, what does Stafford do? He goes out there and he ends up putting up, in a bad game in real life, 27 fantasy points, right? 3 touchdowns, over 300 yards passing. It looks great. He got some chemistry going with Odell. Van Jefferson looks like he took a step forward. It was great, right? They're playing from a negative game script the whole time, so maybe he doesn't have to throw as many times, but you're looking at Stafford right now, and in 3 straight games, 38 or more attempts. In 4 to 5 games, 38 or more attempts. So even in these games when there's dominating teams, he's still throwing in the second half. And I would guess that McVay wants to prove a point of like, okay, yeah, we don't stink. We're going to lay it on Jacksonville, right? So Stafford is firmly in play. You scroll down to a divisional matchup. Tampa Bay and Atlanta is one of those 2 games over a 50 implied total right now at 50.5. And in terms of quarterbacks last week from injury news, just Teddy Bridgewater, the only guy to leave a game. So it shouldn't be too impactful for this slate. Brady, I played him last week and all over the place in a lot of spots, like 20% of my 150s. It didn't work out. He played fine. It was just that Leonard Fournette had 3 rushing touchdowns. Ronald Jones is getting in on the ground, right? It wasn't great overall. Brady's completely fine to go back to. Between Brady and Stafford, this looks like a really good GPP range. As always, these teams are really nice to stack up. I have a fetish for these teams. Haven't been getting there lately, but they'll continue to project out well. They'll continue to look well. Hopefully we get some lower ownership. Jalen Hurts is at a fair price point. Matchup against the Jets looks great. Hurts 3 interceptions. The man can't throw. If you're looking for production in the passing game, probably not coming there. What can you do for me lately on the ground is the bigger story. He doesn't find the end zone, but he picks up 77 rushing yards. The dude is just absolutely dynamite right now, right? You're looking at like 6-7 straight games of 50 or more rushing yards on the ground. It's just so hard not to like that. The problem is that he's priced up for it now. Matchup against the Jets looks good. So Hurts, this range is very much so in play. Herbert against Cincinnati, 6,700. You keep scrolling. Minnesota, divisional matchup. Good matchup versus Detroit. For Kirk Cousins, that's one of the better spots. Cousins, it'll be interesting this week because Jefferson will have a great matchup. Madison, I know I'm going to want to play. We'll see where they priced him with Dalvin Cook getting carted off. Russell Wilson plays tonight. I record these on Monday afternoons. It's 1:30 my time and Central Time. So Russell Wilson plays tonight. We'll see if he ends up doing anything because you get a nice price point if he can finally come back to being the normal self. But brutal. 52% completion percentage. His last 2 games since coming back. Brutal. I mean, no touchdowns, 2 picks. He has not looked good. Burrow's on here, but they keep wanting to give Joe Mixon 30 opportunities per game. Hard to see the ceiling coming from Burrow. Carson Wentz got there, but it was also the matchup based. Tampa Bay, pass funnel. Houston to an extent, sort of a pass funnel, but can easily be ran on, and you know they want to continue to run the ball with the man who leads fantasy right now in running back scoring, Jonathan Taylor. Derek Carr off of the mini bye, looking good on Thursday Night Football on Thanksgiving. Gets the matchup against these guys down here all kind of look the same to me. Heineke plays tonight. He's been playing well the last 2 games in terms of his yards per attempt. Overall numbers for a guy with some mobility, meh, right? You keep scrolling down. Tyrod Taylor continues to be cheap. Back-to-back games, scoring like 16 and 18 fantasy points. So I'm going to be honest with you. Like, none of these quarterbacks scream off the page. The guys that look good, like if Russ can come back to his normal self, and the typical guys of the Herbert Herberts, the Hurts, the Brady, and the Staffords. Kyler, I expect to be lower owned in a tough matchup on the road, although this defense is nowhere near as good. But if he's coming off of injury, you don't know how great that's going to be. So let's just put like a mid-range guy in here. So this mid-range is like Russ, Cousins, Herbert. Let's just put this placeholder in here and see if we can get up to like a Stafford or a Brady, or even if we want to. We'll put Herbert in there for now. Coming off of a bad game, I don't know why they're not taking more shots downfield. It's like check down city 2-yard passes to Keenan Allen lately. It's not great. Matchup against Cincinnati is fine there. Team total looks good. Now we get to the positions I actually care about. Before we get to that though, again, if you would love to support the show, this right here, the link is ratethispodcast.com/Sal. It's free. It's 2 seconds of your time to hit the 5 stars, and I would really appreciate it if you just say, hey, the show is good, or whatever you actually mean about it. You go on your phone, you do that as you're listening. Takes literally 30 seconds of your time, and it is the main thing to fuel the podcast up the rankings. You get entered into a chance to win $100 Rooskies, or maybe we'll just give everybody $5. Leave a way for me to contact you, whether it's Twitter, email, PayPal, whatever it might be, in case you get pulled on the Sunday stream when we spin that wheel. RateThisPodcast.com/Sal. So we go to the running back position, and you go all the way up top. Yeah, hard not to like Jonathan Taylor in this matchup, even though he's on the road, right? He handled 17 of the 18 running back carries last week. He had such a fucking dominating drive. I mean, Jonathan Taylor last week, they're down. There's like 5-6 minutes left in the game, and they're just running the ball. Every snap, right? 15-yard gains, 5-yard gain, 11-yard gain, 7-yard gain. He's running right down the field on Tampa Bay, right? They know what they're doing. This is a good run defense. Vita Vea was out, though, and he's just still going right down the field. Actually, now that I say that, Vita Vea might have been in. I can't remember. Either way, went right down the field. Jonathan Taylor, he sees 5 more targets, right? 22 opportunities in a game where it was a difficult matchup for him, and he's producing yet again. So he looks good. We'll see if we can afford him. I will try to prioritize him. Austin Eckler's here. 20 more opportunities last week, 8 more targets. The story's the same with that guy. Just absolutely fantastic. Kind of priced appropriately to overpriced, needs the touchdowns like you saw last week. The other guy is kind of discount Jonathan Taylor here. For $1,100 less, you get the guy who was second overall over the last 6 weeks in running back scoring, and that's Joe Mixon. Joe Mixon has 25 or more Draftkings points in 5 of his last 6 games. He's got 30 touches and opportunities in back-to-back games, right? This past week, he sees 32 opportunities. He ends up adding 4 catches throughout the air, 165 yards, 2 tuds against the Steelers defense. Now he gets the Chargers defense at home. This Chargers defense that wants to let you just run the fucking ball. I mean, this is a fantastic spot for Joe Mixon. I kind of want to put him in this lineup. We'll keep seeing here. Najee Harris maybe a little bit concerned. I mean, they got down so big in this game, they kind of didn't want to have him in there anymore. Ended up only seeing in the game 13 opportunities to 9 for Ballage and McFarland. A little bit of blowout, though, is why that happened. You get Dalvin Cook, doubtful. Here's the play. Alexander Mattison. So I'm talking about Joe Mixon. I'm talking about Jonathan Taylor. Why not Alexander Mattison at $7,600 against Detroit, which is one of the best matchups you can have in the NFL? Now, $7,600 is a clear price up from the other spots we were getting Mattison this season. I mean, Mattison earlier this year, right? He ended up coming into that game and seeing, I believe, 10 opportunities, scored a touchdown this past week. But earlier this year, week 3, 26 attempts, 8 targets. So 34 opportunities, scored 26 Draftkings points. Week 5, when he starts again, 32 opportunities, scores 29.3 when he finds the end zone. Now, in those specific weeks, he was like relatively cheap, right? He's like $6,000 and $5,500 because it wasn't as known that Cook was going to miss, right? But now you get Alexander Mattison all the way priced up here. And I do think that you're going to get Mattison to be maybe not as elite or as talented as Jonathan Taylor and Mixon. I don't believe that. But with this price point at $7,600, I'm completely fine going to Alexander Mattison here. I would like to go to Mattison and Mixon. Maybe we can fit it. Might have to go down off of Herbert. But let's see what else we have here at the running backs. Because I do believe, like, Swift is on this slate if there's Detroit. He was hurt. And we already have maybe some other injuries. Miles Sanders is another running back injury who missed the second half. Who knows if he'll be back. Already Jordan Howard out there. Saw a lot of work for Boston Scott. When we get to him, we'll see his price point. Fournette's price point comes up above $7K for the man who continues to just dominate. 100 yards rushing, 4 total touchdowns in that game, 8 targets. These 2-man defenses, cover 2s. You're seeing Fournette and Gronk getting the most usage on those checkdowns from Brady. Just like James White and Gronk did back in the day, right? It's easy to take the checkdowns. Patterson, Atlanta doesn't score for 17 straight drives, and Patterson comes back and he scores 2 fucking touchdowns. He was the number 1 graded PFF back last week. He looked good. 4 10-plus yard runs. He looked good. Here is Swift at $6,600. He's questionable. We'll see what ends up happening there. I believe he re-injured his same shoulder that he's been dealing with, so I think there's a chance he misses, although the mini-bye may help him. Saquon came back. I mean, he had a 32-yard run, and he still only finished with like 40 rushing yards, right? 32-yard run, and then the other 12 carries went for 8 yards. Absolutely terrible. It's just not good, right? 5 targets, a couple of checkdown passes. Not good at all. It's tough. 6,300, though, probably makes for a decent GPP play because people will definitely go to, I would say, I mean, honestly, they might just skip this range in general. Because if Swift is out, I would lean that people probably go to James Robinson. He ended up having in that game another 20 opportunities, 115 total yards. Robinson is just, I mean, he's like McCaffrey from a couple years ago. No matter how bad this offense is, no matter how shaky the offensive line can be at times, continues to produce. Darrell Henderson, this is like a nice range here. Like Saquon's going to go I would say, unowned in GPPs, like large field. And that could be interesting because Robinson's going to project out better and look better to people. Darrell Henderson has another 20 opportunity game this past week, finds the end zone, and he's at home against Jacksonville. People are definitely going to want to go there. I mean, Darrell Henderson looks really good at 6,100 to maybe make this first look lineup. We keep going. Josh Jacobs was good. He had almost like 30 opportunities on Thanksgiving. Eli Mitchell did have 30 plus opportunities. Mitchell's a hard one to pass up right here, my man. I mean, you saw Trey Sermon get hurt in that last game. Debo also got hurt and is likely to miss with this groin injury. And what happens with Mitchell? 32 opportunities, 5 catches on 6 targets, by the way. So also the passing game work. 27 attempts, 133 yards. They don't even give the man a damn picture. That looks good for a team that you know wants to continue to run the ball. And they have no interest in giving Jeff Wilson the rock. They like Eli Mitchell on the road against Seattle, though. Tougher spot. This seems like a really nice spot here. It's like either Mitchell or Connor, whichever one you want to go to, because Connor in his last 3 games without Edmonds, assuming Edmonds is still on IR, you've seen 26 touches, 40 fantasy points. 13 touches where they're getting blown out, 15.5 fantasy points, and then 26 touches in the last game before the bye, 21 fantasy points, and now might get Kyler Murray back, which is only going to lead to more opportunities in terms of extending drives and opportunities in the red zone. So Eli Mitchell and James Conner, their workloads, assuming that there's no Chase Edmonds, both look so damn secure. If you didn't want to go to an Alexander Madison, you could probably build a really good lineup with playing both of them. But let's keep going. I'll probably end up landing on one of these 2 running backs if we don't find any other value. Gaskin, sure. I mean, if you look at the box score, you'll see Lindsey had a lot of carries, a lot of garbage time, though. Montgomery, cheap, going to grade out well. I already know that at home against Arizona. Javonte Williams or Jamal Williams is here. $5,400 Jamal Williams. Saw 20 opportunities on Thanksgiving, right? And it wasn't like Swift got hurt in the first play of the game. 15 carries, 5 receptions. We know he's a good pass-catching running back. 3 years ago, he graded out as a top 5 pass-catching running back in the NFL, according to Pro Football Focus. You saw the usage with the Packers. Nice to see it. I mean, $5,400. Let's put Jamal Williams in here. I think he's a legit running back. We like it because of the price point. So this is if there's no Swift. If Swift is in, I probably go right to James Conner, Eli Mitchell range. Those guys look really fucking good at their usage. We keep going down at running back now, see if there's anything else down here. Sanders got hurt in the second half. Track that because let's see where Boston Scott is. Nothing else is looking that good. David Johnson got hurt in that game. Don't really care too much about that. I'm still not seeing Boston Scott on here. I mean, we know Jordan Howard is likely to miss. I mean, he'll be questionable. So Boston Scott at 4,600. If Jordan Howard and Sanders were to both miss, Howard missed last week, Sanders hurt, and it might be the same exact injury he was dealing with. We need more news on Tuesday and probably Wednesday. Against the number 1 defense you possibly can run against in terms of being number 1 best matchup for a running back with the Jets, Boston Scott's interesting at 4,600. If we put Boston Scott in there, we get Jamal Williams and Boston Scott in the lineup. Doesn't feel great, to be honest with you. But let's just see what we can build here now because we get Madison. We're just trying to get secure touches. Madison, 20-plus touches. Jamal Williams at that price tag, 16 to 18 touches feels good. Boston Scott, if those other 2 running backs are out, I mean, you just saw Boston Scott have 18 opportunities in a game where Miles Sanders played the whole first half and saw 10 opportunities himself. So, I mean, Boston Scott versus the Jets can be in line for a 20-touch day if those 2 guys are out. Kenny Gainwell would be the only other running back there. Let's just throw in a cheap defense like we normally do. The cheapest defense this week, Jacksonville on the road against the Rams. Doesn't feel great to be going to Jacksonville there, I'll be completely honest with you. Washington football team, though, their defensive line against Derek Carr, who struggles when he's pressured. Yeah, we can go there. So we'll go Washington football team for $2,500. I kind of already know the tight end. This is a little bit cheating. I didn't see the salaries. This is the first look. But I know the tight end I want to play because I saw Dan Arnold is out. So if Dan Arnold is out, I don't even have to look at the rest of the tight end pricing. Let's see how expensive James O'Shaughnessy is. We can talk about tight ends and then close it up with the wide receivers. Darren Waller dealing with a knee. Could open up Foster Moreau as somewhat of a value. Mark Andrews finds the end zone again. Kittle, only 1 catch. With Debo not even being involved because Ayuk's more involved and they're running a lot. Definitely will be low in the GPPs. Kyle Pitts continues to struggle with cornerbacks going on him. Kyle Pitts, yet again seeing cornerbacks being targeted as the number 1 receiver on a team, only puts up 2 catches on 6 targets for 26 yards. Zach Ertz seems to be a little bit priced out, even if Hopkins misses. Gronk, hard not to like Gronk. Gronk is the best tight end that I've seen so far in pricing, dominating these 2 high looks. 17 targets the last 2 games, 11, that leads the team, 11 with these 2 high zones, getting all the underneath stuff right now. He hasn't even gotten to show his red zone role yet in this offense because they keep running in all the fucking touchdowns. But Gronk is going to continue to eat. Gesicki, it's Jalen Waddle stealing the show there, right? He got outproduced by Durham Smythe this past week, but still ran 30 routes primarily as a receiver. I think it's fine. Dallas Goedert, I mean, Jalen Hurts, when he's not doing anything, throwing 3 picks, it's tough. Just 1 catch on 3 targets for 0 yards for Dallas Goedert. That entire team looked terrible. Hard to get to him when Gronk's not that much more expensive. Freiermuth might have a concussion, so we have to track that. Logan Thomas plays tonight. Yeah, Dan Arnold's going to miss a month, so we're still scrolling. We still haven't seen James O'Shaughnessy, so I'm getting excited. Tyler Higbee is a guy who's just like wherever Jared Cook's price is. You can only play these guys in stacks. They're running a ton of routes, 38 routes for Higbee against the Packers, 1 catch, 3 yards. Not great. Not great at all, Bob. Can only put him in stacks. Everett plays tonight. Kind of seems appropriately priced, though, for what his role is in this offense. Cole Kmet at 3,600 is a fine price, but I think we're going to have the value in James O'Shaughnessy. I mean, Kmet, if he gets Andy Dalton again, had a career-high game, 11 targets, 8 catches, 65 yards on 37 routes. He played as a receiver 77% of the time. That's good to see. Ricky Seals-Jones doubtful for at least week 12 Monday Night Football. We'll see what happens next week. There's Jared Cook, kind of a stack only. So it looks like we're going to get a below $3,000 tight end this week as I keep on scrolling. James O'Shaughnessy below 2,700. Yes, Forster Murray was there at 2,700 if he was to start. James O'Shaughnessy is $2,600. Come on down, James O'Shaughnessy. The perfect punt. Why would you not play him? James O'Shaughnessy has played 2 games this year, 2 full games. He left in week 2 with an injury, right? So there's no Dan Arnold. We know how much that you have seen. Look at this lovely guy. He's like winking in his face. The double chin is rocking. We love to see that. But he's the clear punt tight end right now. I mean, this man ran 36 routes in week 12, 4 targets, 3 catches, 29 yards. That's not great usage, but 6 fantasy points at 2,600 is fine. But the bigger thing is how many routes he ran. We already know how much they like to use tight ends in this offense. Week 1 is the only other full game he's played. 42 routes, 6 catches, 48 yards on 8 targets. Yeah, we're playing $2,600 James O'Shaughnessy, at least for the purposes of this lineup, and we're not going to look back. So now we have $6,800. That's a lot of money. $6,800 for our last 3 wide receiver spots. This is, of course, playing Boston Scott. If Sanders or Howard even, because Howard would be the goal line back, if one of those guys plays, I could probably get off of Boston Scott. If DeAndre Swift plays, I'm definitely getting off of Jamal Williams and just going up to Connor and Elijah Mitchell. That $6,000 range is good. James Conner, 20-plus opportunities a week. Saquon's still there. Still a dude, right? Still a damn good dude. Elijah Mitchell, these 25-plus opportunity games and every touch and now the receiving work, right? All these dudes. James Conner looks really good, that range. But with $6,800 per position, let's go to the wide receiver spot here. So there's no Packers. They're on a bye week this week, so they're not on the slate. So you get Cooper Kupp. He comes down $600 in price, as he should, but he just missed a 100-yard bonus last week. Didn't even have a catch until midway through that game. And by the way, as we're getting here right now, hopefully you're having a lovely day. If you're not already a Patreon member, come on in down below. Come on, 1,000-plus Patreon members. We have an optimizer for a bunch of different sports, not just NFL, NBA, PGA, MMA, but the NFL optimizer, a Discord with 1,000-plus members, projections, rankings, ownership, game-by-game notes, a bunch of stuff to help you dominate industry low price because I'm just a one-man band. I ain't got to pay nobody, so the price kind of gets distributed back to you in terms of a low price. So come on in. If you have any questions, let me know down below as we finish up these wide receivers. Yeah, I mean, Cooper Kupp just missed a 100-yard bonus. He had a fine game. The thing was, I mean, he had a lot of targets. They were playing from behind, 7 catches, 96 yards. If he hits that bonus, it's actually a really good game. He only has 16.5 fantasy points. If he has one more catch to get over the bonus, you're looking at like a 22, 23-point game, and he's actually not paying off 9,600, but not killing you, where when he scores 16.5, it's definitely not paying it off. He played out of the slot 81% of the time. You keep going down. Justin Jefferson is right here. Debo unlikely to play. Jefferson at 8,200 versus Detroit. That looks damn good, especially since I think a lot of people, including myself, based on this video, are going to put Alexander Mattison in there. So Jefferson, you had the 2-touchdown game from Adam Thielen stealing the show last week. Still, though, a team-high 8 targets, 4 catches, 83 yards. He needs to see more targets, but there's just Adam Thielen there. It's tough to get that when there's another competent receiver. Keenan Allen continues to do Keenan Allen things. There was like a stretch when Mike Williams was going off from like weeks 3 to 5 where it's like, is Keenan Allen, he's not going to see the volume anymore? No. I mean, Keenan Allen has now seen 10-plus targets in 5 straight games. He has 15 or more fantasy points in 8 out of 11 of his games and at least 10 in all 11 games. I mean, he's been so damn consistent. This past week, 7 catches, 85 yards, 15.5 fantasy points on 10 targets. In a game where nothing was going right, Keenan Allen still hits his floor. It's just such a damn high floor. 10 targets led that team. And we have Herbert in this lineup, so maybe we try and stack in Keenan Allen there. We'll try and see if we can afford him. McLaurin's on here. He plays tonight. Adam Thielen continues to score touchdowns. Look, we got to stop disrespecting. I apologize, Adam Thielen. I said you were a fade player because of your touchdowns and everything else that people were saying. Because look, numbers-wise, yeah, these outliers, if you were somebody who trusts the numbers and film too, of course, both of those, you are going to miss on the outliers. You're going to miss on Derrick Henry's breakouts and continued breakouts. You're going to miss on Adam Thielen continuing to see these touchdown crazy totals and red zone targets every game. But if you chase those, if you try and chase these outliers enough, you're going to end up losing more than you win, right? So I'm okay doing that. So I will miss on the outliers. Good matchup for Adam Thielen here. This man continues to see 7+ targets in every game but one this season. This past week, 7 targets, 62 yards, and 2 touchdowns. Jamar Chase price tag drops a little bit. Chase, it's just really hard to justify Chase when I assume T. Higgins is, he's probably not even in the 6K range after his big week. But look, T. Higgins is the target leader. He's the red zone target leader. Why is Jamar Chase this expensive? Well, he has the big touchdowns downfield. He had the early start to the year, which propped up his price tag. But T. Higgins is literally the guy seeing more target volume all season long and seeing more red zone targets all season long, just didn't convert those touchdowns. So even if it's like only $1,000 difference, it's still too much to justify Jamar Chase in anything but a low lower owned GPP build, which might actually be appealing as a run back option if you're playing Herbert stacks this week. Deante Johnson at 6,800, we just click him in. I mean, I don't even have to think about it. We have $6,800 per player. Deante Johnson fits in this lineup easily. This man just came off of a 14 target week, 9 catches, 95 yards, 18.5 fantasy points, just misses the bonus. In yet again, a game where nothing goes right for Pittsburgh, you still get the floor for Deante Johnson, the target leader yet again, playing on the outside 91% of the time in that game. Look, this guy's seen 13 or more targets in 5 out of his last 6 games. It's hard not to put him in at this price tag. I don't know how Deante Johnson isn't in the mid to upper 7K range in pricing at this point. Like, I don't know how Jamar Chase is more expensive than Deante Johnson at this point. A really nice range coming up here with the receivers from Tampa Bay. You see DK Metcalf plays tonight. I'm interested in DK Metcalf. Massive piece on him probably. 99 percentile speed and size score. 8.2 targets per game heading into Monday Night Football. You're watching this. Hopefully DK Metcalf goes off and he looks like an even better play at 6,700, whereas price has basically been frozen for the past 2 months with Geno and a bad returning Russ. Godwin will still definitely be in play, the target leader last week, although look, these underneath quicker passes, even though Godwin played a lot of the slot, the Gronks, Godwin will probably benefit more if AB actually returns with these underneath stuff out of the slot, but the Gronks and the Fournettes are really benefiting, even to an extent, Cameron Brate, the tight ends right now. Not much interest in Hollywood Brown. I mean, maybe he'll go really low on, but even then I don't care too much. Lockett, 6.6 targets per game at Russ this year. Here's the guy. I mean, Jalen Waddle at 6,400. I was another guy that I wasn't really on this year at his current ADP in season long. Waddle at 6,400. We're going to put him in there because now we have $7,400 to spend. But Jalen Waddle at this point, he's averaging 9.7 targets per game since week 6. Now, look, there's been no Will Fuller. Devontae Parker potentially can return this week. He was eligible to return last week. He did not. But he's coming off of another massive game. Probably his best game ever. 10 targets, 9 catches, 137 yards, and a touchdown. All of those numbers led the team. He's looking great. When you're getting 9.7 targets per week, yeah, that's really good volume. I'm going to continue to play you, especially against the New York Giants, and he's at home. And Tua doesn't look that bad, and Tua is keying in on him now, more so than anybody else, including Gesicki, out there. So that leaves us a lot of money, $7,400. We'll keep scrolling down to see what else is out here. Hopkins at 6,200. Look, if Hopkins is finally able to return from this hamstring, this lower body injury, you just play him at 6,200 and you don't really think twice about it. Devonta Smith, Claypool, man. I mean, you get Brandon Cooks here, scored a touchdown, got 5 targets. They just didn't pass a lot in that game. Slow-paced game, ran the ball a ton. T. Higgins. So here's the thing, right? T. Higgins, $5,800. He's $1,200 cheaper than Jamar Chase. Why would you not just play T. Higgins? The man who leads this team in targets and target share in the red zone when he's actually out there and playing, right? So borderline like a top 10 target share guy in the NFL, coming off of his biggest game, finds the end zone, finds a 100-yard bonus, 7 targets, looks good. T. Higgins, $5,800. He's definitely in play, strongly in play. This whole range is like Hunter Renfrow with no Henry Ruggs and maybe no Waller. He ends up going out there 33 outs, 9 targets, $134, 8 receptions on Thanksgiving. He now has 18 or more DraftKings points in 3 out of 4 games, and he has 11 or more points in 9 out of 11 games. Some GPP options in Pittman, although Pittman's not seeing the volume. 10 targets this past week, but not efficient, just 4 catches. He only has 2 10-target games since week 3. They just want to run the ball a ton, and they line up to do that against Houston. Mike Williams and Chargers stacks. Darnell Mooney's down here at 5,600, a man who's got 20-plus fantasy points in 3 straight. Kind of hope Andy Dalton's actually active for him. You saw on Thanksgiving he went out there, 5 catches, $123 and 6 on 6 targets, back-to-back 100-yard games for the second-year player breaking out right now. The former, I believe, 5th-round pick. Talk about a gem in the 5th round. So there's just a ton of value all over the place. Ayuk is down here now with maybe no Debo, been the leading receiver out there. 91 yards this past week, continues to operate as the leading receiver like 3 out of the last 4 weeks. Elijah Moore looked good, got the targets. He just was missed like 2 or 3 times by Zach Wilson. That stinks. Odell with the deep touchdown dealing with back injuries. If Antonio Brown returns at 5,400, he's the best player in those stacks alongside Rob Gronkowski, and it actually starts to make those Tampa Bay stacks, $5,300 Gronk, $5,400 Brown, makes Tampa Bay pretty damn easy to get to. Keep going down. Van Jefferson had 1 touchdown call back. He looked good overall, led that team actually in routes to run. Kenny Golladay just can't get shit going. I mean, he led the team in targets. He had a drop. He just did not look good. He does not look good out there. He looks old, and relatively, talking about when he came out of college, he is somewhat old. Relative to the rest of NFL receivers, of course, towards that 28 years of age. If Shepard returns at 4,900, he's the best value I've seen so far. If Corey Davis returns, he's seeing like 7 targets per game right now. Gets a decent matchup against Philly, but definitely lean Shepard at the exact same price tag. I would keep scrolling down. I mean, value's kind of hard to come by. Crowder only a 1-catch game for 5 yards. Marvin Jones hasn't been doing much right now on the outsides. Hilton ended up finding the end zone, a lot of underneath routes, 4 catches, I believe, in that game. Deshaun Jackson's kind of boomer bust. Chenault had 8 targets, but they're all these just quick little targets out of the slot. Barring a touchdown, it's hard to see the upside there. Maybe, I mean, I think James Robinson's probably your best run back. Actually, This is another thing. James O'Shaughnessy, if you're talking about stacks with the Rams, $2,600, that's a pretty easy and cheap run back, and it fills your tight end spot. He's just a great play all around this week. He's definitely going to be highly owned. Curtis Samuel returns tonight. We'll see what's happening there. So not a lot of value. I mean, Deante Parker, you got to play that guy if he comes back. A $3,900 Deante Parker who has seen 7 or more targets in all 5 games, averaging 8.6 targets per game. I know that Waddle is going off, but man, if you get a $3,900 Deante Parker, who's normally a 5 or 6K wide receiver, if he finally comes off IR this week, that looks good. Cheap players down here, not much. I mean, Bryan Edwards is basically a bust at this point. I don't know how we can continue to go back to him. The dude's got like 1 catch over the last 2 weeks, and that's with no Henry Ruggs, and last week basically no Waller for most of that game. We keep scrolling here looking for value. I mean, we get Josh Reynolds. He was reconnected on Thanksgiving. Everybody saw the deep touchdown. He saw 5 targets, which was a team high, reconnected with his LA Rams teammate in Los Angeles Rams, Jared Goff. So he looked okay. Anything else down here? Laquan Treadwell at 3,200. He actually had a great game. I mean, he had 8 targets, which was tied for the team high. He played on the outside. He ran 38 routes for this team. He's filling in for Jamal Agnew on the outside receiver role. 4 catches, 53 yards. So those are the names down here, like Josh Reynolds and Laquan Treadwell, mainly just GPP options. Those are the names that at least stand out. Scotty Miller only ran 3 routes last week. He's probably the flat min. If we keep scrolling, we'll eventually find him. Maybe at some point he'll take over for Tyler Johnson snaps, but whenever Antonio Brown comes back, it's just kind of a wash on that. So we have $7,400 left, which I don't think we can afford McLaurin or Thielen. I kind of want Keenan Allen, though. Especially because you can pair him up with Herbert. And again, like if we get Keenan Allen, I guess we can just chop down to the cheaper defenses, which the Washington football team's defense actually looked decent. Now we're choosing between like the Texans, which doesn't feel good. Atlanta versus Tampa Bay doesn't feel good. Lions versus Minnesota. None of this feels good. Jacksonville versus the Rams. I mean, with Stafford hurt the way he's playing, sure, but none of this feels good. I'll just put one of them in here for right now. I like the receivers that we got. We got a lot of volume. We're basically getting like 10 targets a game out of these 3 receivers. It's just a little bit shaky when it comes to, we know Madison's going to play. Does Jamal Williams and also Boston Scott get the starting featured role? If those dudes were not to get the featured role, we just probably go off of Keenan Allen and just get another like fairly priced wide receiver. So maybe you go down to like a T. Higgins here. So you can go to T. Higgins at $5,800. That leaves you at $5,900 per player, which is actually, it should be perfect, right? It allows us to get James Conner in there. And oh man, we're $100 shy of also being able to fit Elijah Mitchell, who I think is 6K flat. Oh, that stinks. Can we afford? We can't afford Henderson. We could afford Montgomery or Gaskin. Damn, we just missed out on Elijah Mitchell. Maybe we end up going to somebody else other than like a Jalen Waddle here. So this is like another build. If those running backs are in there, that's kind of the first look that I like. If there's not, we can keep going down off of Jalen Waddle. You get Hunter Renfrow at $5,800 in a solid matchup. You get Darnell Mooney, who continues to play well and see all the volume, especially if there's no Allen Robinson. So you could put a Mooney in there who's seeing his own volume. Then you get $6,700 for your flex, and now you can go either, DK Metcalf. You choose at this point. You can go DK Metcalf. You can go Godwin. You can go Waddle. You can go Saquon. So that's another way to approach it, is you kind of go a little bit more mid-range instead of upper mid-range at receiver. I think Johnson's just kind of locked into my lineups with this volume that the dude's seeing, not only for this year, but all of last year as well. So, yes, that looks good. I like this. I like these builds overall. I like Jamal Williams and Boston Scott if they get the roles. You can upgrade an Alexander Mattison if you wanted to a Joe Mixon based on the volume that he's getting. I'd probably honestly prefer Alexander Mattison, but also a great matchup for Mixon. If you upgrade him there, he's kind of the run back for the Chargers if you were able to do that with a Keenan Allen. And then you get $6,200 for your flex spot, which is where you can start to go to like an Elijah Mitchell, and it starts to look good there, or a James Robinson on the opposite side of the Rams games. So those are some things you can do. There's another build for you. You get Joe Mixon, James Conner, and Elijah Mitchell, and you just go to Deante, Darnell Mooney, and T. Higgins in your flex spots. You can get the Jacksonville defense up from being the terrible Jacksonville defense back to the, let's see, $2,500 Washington football team defense. So there's another build, right? That's another build for you with the Herbert stack. Obviously, you can go cheaper at quarterback, although honestly, none of those dudes really stood out. Brady and Stafford look okay from stacking. So Herbert, Mixon, Conner. This is the second type of first look build if you didn't want to go to the cheaper, or if they don't open up the cheaper Jamal Williams and Boston Scott. And this one also looks pretty damn good. So let me know what you think, gang. Let me know what you think, ladies and fellas out there. Your first look for week 13. Lucky number 13. Unlucky number 13. Friday the 13th. Hey, Freddie, Jason, where you at? Halloween's over. We're moving into Christmas now. Come on. Have you ever seen a man wear sunflowers? If you're listening on the podcast, by the way, ratethispodcast.com/Sal. Come on. If you love the kid right here, help the kid out, and you get into a raffle for $100. At the end of the show, pull your phone out and just do it. 2 seconds. Appreciate you. Look, have you ever seen a man rock sunflowers on a black shirt with a Santa hat on? Goddamn, Santa Sal. We're getting really close to Santa Sal as December is upon us. Thank you so much for tuning in. Appreciate you all a ton. I'll see you when I see you in the next one, or in the Patreon Discord. Come join the community. Peace out, gang. I appreciate you all so much.